get you online. So welcome to Geek Club Meeting 3. And we're following a kind of a sequence whereby we have different topics and things to discuss. Just to give you an update, the very first week we just gave a bit of an overview of what's the purpose of these Geek Club meetings and made it clear that it's designed so that in the end everybody can have enough information not only to build his own gig wealth fund, but also in the end becomes a wealth coach. So tonight the agenda will be basically a sales process overview and a focus on prospecting, because I see every person with the potential to become a wealth coach, which means you need to find 10 people to share this gig message with. Then Gavin will do an introduction on one of our products, very economical, the G1 washing powder. And then Sarah will close the sessions for us with a topic on the values of a generational family. And then we'll just look at some forthcoming events. So without any further ado, let's talk about the sales process. Just to recap, when we talk about the sales process, we talk about you're building your legacy as a house, and it starts with wisdom or philosophy. It starts with the wealth, and it starts with the pillars of wellness and wealth, followed by the roof of worth or purpose. Now, last week we quickly just touched on the fact that what we're busy doing here is actually, it's almost like a franchise program, but I said it, I'm saying it very carefully, because we want to put something together that for those of you who are serious can then become part of a business that if you put 20 hours per month, it can eventually bring you in more serious income than you currently can get as a senior professional in the job place out there. But the starting point is prospect to free member. And then last week we just quickly said it starts with a nameless, create awareness up to the point of signing up as a free member. And tonight we're going to drill down deeper into the sale process, which we will then cover over the next few weeks. And just to give you a perspective from a professional point of view, the professional sales training says before you can get to tell someone about your products, you must first have a list of potential prospects. And then on the right-hand side, at every point in the equation, people have to do something to advance to the next level. So just having a list of names means nothing until you then start connecting with them and qualify them to see, are they in the market for what you want to offer them? And then depending on how they qualify at that level, you then identify, you research the need, you do a presentation, foresee some objections they might have, and do a close. And that's now this, getting a person to making the decision, and then after sales service, the follow-up. Now, what has been designed into the gig website very carefully, and for those of you who've gone through some of the training that Gavin recommended, it's a more professional approach. And this graph just illustrates the process from the buyer's perspective. Now, in our language, the buyer would then be any one of us who at one stage knew nothing about gig, but then something happened and we were introduced to the gig concept. And what process did we follow? There was an awareness. Someone made us aware of something like the gig concept. Then, and just by the way, I'm going to get to that just now, but I want you to start casting your mind and make some side notes, because you're going to participate tonight. And by the way, all of you can unmute your microphones, but only if I ask you to. so that we can just have a good quality recording. But I'm going to ask every one of you to say, what was that trigger point for you that introduced you to Gig in the first place? And then the second question is, now that you've been a member of Gig for a while, what is it that now makes you excited and for you to continue the journey? So that's what I'm talking about, this awareness. Because if you have an answer for that question, it helps you also to identify the right people for you. Awareness enough is not enough. You then need to be interested. And then when we look at awareness from the Gig point of view, that's where you build a nameless, and we call it the prospect stage. We're going to come back to that just now. Now, the interest phase that we've designed into the Gig process, and it's all on the website, is to send people the website link, gig-institute.com, and tell people to watch the video and register as a free member. But we still don't ask them to join. We now want them to go through almost a self-due diligence to see, is this what I'm looking for me and my family? And that's why we recommend them to go onto the online training, specifically number 1 that says struggle to significance. And then in the formal sales process, that's where they now for the first time have to take out money. And that's where they register to become a paid member. And in our case, it's a once-off $250 and a choice of 60 or 120 Rand a month, for which they got various options. Now they're in the process, and this is where all of you are tonight, and that's now the post-purchase process to make sure people are experiencing the excellence of the journey. And this is where we have the initial wealth coach interview, 12-month action plan, followed by the Gig Club, and then ultimately where in normal language it says get the client and upsell him on other products. In our case, we want everybody to become a wealth coach. So that's just as a general background. Now, tonight we're going to just briefly touch on the aspect of prospecting, building a name list. When you look at prospecting, building a name list, you always start with who do you personally know right now? And nowadays with our fancy smartphones, you don't have to look further than all the people that you have on your cell phone. But those people on your cell phone represent different spheres of influence in your life. They could be family, they could be friends, colleagues, maybe you know them from church or sport or hobbies or any other special interest group, like for instance, Rotary Club, or we have a police forum, or whatever the case may be. So you start by first just putting those names on paper. But if you are in any business, so don't just think Gig now, for any kind of business that you have, you will never be able to build a sustainable business just from your immediate sphere of influence. You need to go beyond that. So how do you go beyond that? And that brings us to what the next step. But before we get there, I want you to, right now, we're going to open the platform. And as I call your name, I want you to basically just tell us your answer on one of these two questions, or on both questions. What is it that attracted you to Gig at first? And now that you are part of Gig for a while, what makes you excited about Gig and going forward? And I'm just going to go as we have it in front of us here. Viv, why don't you unmute yourself and just tell us your answer to this question? Okay. Viv, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, tell us, what attracted you to Gig at first and what makes you excited about Gig now?
It was this Umi Jasper who attracted me to Gig.
All right, I know I'm attractive, but it can't be just that.
It was that, and no, it was, and the fact that it resonated with what I was already doing with myself and my family. And then what makes me excited now is I can only see potential for all kinds of growth and development going forward.
Okay, thanks, Viv. Next, Gavin, and after him, Sarah.
Okay, hi everybody. I think probably the major reason was I was already doing this. I just didn't have as many names for the stuff. I was more focused on business, and I was interested in making business that lasted beyond one generation. And this fitted with my logic. So bringing the individual into it sort of made a hell of a lot of sense, and business is something I deal with at the chamber. So, you know, it fitted already.
And Gavin, going forward, is that still the same thing, a reason that makes you excited about going forward?
I think because I'm capable of, or because I have the opportunity to influence a lot of what's going on, I'm able to, it's almost self-centered. I'm able to actually direct what we are going to do and what we are doing. And that to me is very self-satisfying. It allows me to actually make sure that my understanding of how to move people forward is actually correct or not.
All right, thanks, Gavin. We'll come back to you just now for your session. The next on is Sarah. So let me just unmute you. All right, Sarah.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much, Coach. Yes, definitely. What attracted me definitely was the pain, the pain of being broke, the pain of being in debt as a family. That was the biggest attraction, because Gig presented itself as an opportunity to help us as a family to overcome that. And also, you know, just the acknowledgement that I came to realize that I actually wasn't very wise about finances, and I needed somebody to teach me in that regard.
And going forward, is the reason still valid, or has it changed to something else?
No, absolutely. The reason is very valid. You know, it's still very valid, because that's exactly what I'm getting. You know, in terms of the road we've taken as a family, being able to deal with our debts, and a huge change there that we are seeing, and the continuous education that we are receiving from Gig, which certainly resonates with me, and the generational mindset, the third generational mindset, which is something that I've always had in my heart, but never really quite knew how to put it down on paper. And so Gig is still very relevant in that regard.
All right, thanks, Sarah. We'll get back to you shortly. Next on is Nabom. Nabom, share with us what attracted you to Gig and what makes you still excited.
Hi, Jasper. What made me to be attracted to Gig the first time was to hear what it stands for, the 3-generational mindset. Because I've sort of realized as well, I've had a lot of setbacks in life. I would plan, and I'm someone that does not want debt, but I've found myself sitting with debt, and every time having to start afresh, you know. That's been frustrating, being a single parent and having to raise 2 children. So when I heard about Gig, it sort of brought about hope for me that, you know what, I can make a difference in my life. Yeah, taking baby steps, you know, into building the dynasty for my family. But I have a hope in the future.
All right, thanks, Nabom. And I think next on I have Laurent. Laurent, can you hear us? Okay, then I see this person only as Huawei P20 Lite. I don't know who this person is. Tell us who you are and what attracted you to Gig. All right. Okay, I'm just going to mute her. Go on.
No, I'm sure.
And right, Ayanda, you next.
My. Good evening, everybody. I really was attracted to Gig because
I'm trying to find that. Ayanda, just give us a chance. There's someone who's open, and I can't see who it is.
I hear that noise as well.
Um, let me just manage participants and mute all. All right, it's now a bit better. So Ayanda, just unmute yourself and share with us this. What attracted you to gig at first, and what makes you excited about gig now?
Okay, let me just, okay.
Okay, I've got you unmuted.
Can you hear now? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I really was, the whole idea of generational inheritance really resonated with me. And it really was just one of those things that I really wanted to do above all that. And I really also wanted to empower others. I'd seen how the whole lack of financial understanding and how people can free themselves from financial stress has really got people struggling in many aspects of our society. And that for me was a big thing, that now that Jasper has a structure that allows a lot more people to get assistance and to really sort themselves out, still is such a big opportunity that I see for people like me and for many others. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Ayanda. All right, let's get one or two more comments here. Kevin, you're up next. But guys, yeah, so by getting your various, the purpose of this question, or both questions, it's not necessarily that which initially attracted you to gig that still keeps you there, but certainly that initial thing that attracted you was what I would call almost one of your strong points of interest, and another fancy word in the marketing is called a pain point. So when you start moving into getting to make new friends and family, chances are that you'll probably find much better quality people coming out of your new circle of friends, because you now got a clear understanding of who do you want to take with you on this journey. Now, an analogy or an acronym that has helped me a lot to get out of my shell, and I was fairly wanted to just keep to myself when I was in a group of new people. But what helped me was to learn how to make conversation, and I used FORM, standing for family, occupation, recreation, motivation. So my favorite thing would, my normal thing would be, let's say I meet Gavin for the first time, is to say, so Gavin, what do you do for a living? And then he would start telling me what he's currently doing. And while he's telling me what he's currently doing, I'm trying to connect, but where does he, how did he get here? So I might say, so what made you do what you're doing today? How did you get here? And he might take me back to some of his other journeys in his life. And we keep on exploring the topic of his occupation. And obviously, it's not just a one-way street. I also share with him a bit of mine. But if we now finish talking about occupation, I would start going into family. So are you married and kids? What do they do today? So you'll see that these are natural kind of questions. But let's say I'm really stuck in a conversation and I have to keep going. It will then probably move to recreation. So what do you do for fun? And he could say, I'm playing golf or whatever the case may be. And then ultimately I would say, so doing all these things, why? What motivates you? Now, you do all of that questions. At the back of your mind, you're looking for question number 3. What are their pain points? And years ago, when I was building our New Life business, this was my very effective tool to find out what motivates people. Now, today in gig, we have many more potential pain points. And I would say the biggest one in people's minds right now is economic uncertainty, and then, security needs and lifestyle needs. So I think for today's discussion, this is as far as I want to take it, but I want to leave you with homework. In this coming week, make sure that each and every one of you go sit down, put some pen to paper, and actively write down the names of at least 100 people, starting with those that you know yourself, family, friends, colleagues, and so forth. And then you probably surprise yourself how many names you can write down. Don't do anything about it just yet, unless you just want in the meantime try to send them to the Geek website. But then also go and experiment with this FORM. Consciously see if you can strike up conversation with 3 strangers this week, and just you at the back of your mind, you know you're busy with FORM, but just casually ask them what do they do for a living and so forth. And let's hear some of your feedback. And this is how far we want to go tonight in terms of this session. The next session, and by the way, all of this leads to you being able to build your own wealth coach group, and ultimately out of your wealth coach group, you'll see who will become the next person to become a wealth coach. That's the key. Last week we spoke about time allocation. So the time allocation will constantly be turning a prospect to a free member to a paid member to a wealth coach, and ultimately a wealth coach to a mentor.